way I remember that the murals came about was through Erica Polikoff, and she was my professor at the time, and I think that's how I became involved. She knew me and knew that I was so interested in this area of Central American politics and the U.S. involvement in Central America, and then pulled me into this project. She was the director of the Simon Arts Festival that year and actually hired me as an assistant. She gave me specific duties. As far as the mural was concerned, she had me involved in primarily two things. I remember going to the airport to pick up the artists, but other than that, it was mostly being a liaison with the community, because part of the mural painting project that was really important was for them to reflect the ideas, the concerns, the priorities of the community. So I did my best to pull people in from the community to give their input, and then gather that input and then had it sent on to the artists so they could make their murals based on what I could gather. And the second part was, once they were here, was to again be a liaison to help the community members who wanted to actually participate in the painting of the mural to handle those logistics in terms of scheduling people and making sure that they were showing up and the artists had what they needed to get the murals completed and have community participation in that. So nowadays, we could probably just post something on Facebook and get people to throw in ideas, but in the old days, we had to figure out how to reach people and get people to come together and then to swap ideas and things. So it was a number of informal gatherings where I don't even remember exactly how did I get the word out, flyers in those days, you know. And so that might be one way that people would see that flyer. Oh, there's going to be this get-together, you know, and then come onto campus. And I would just pull people together and then just facilitate a conversation, you know, and we would pull up brainstorm ideas. And so then I would just list all of that and then give it to Erica, and she would make sure it got to the artists. I remember more the process than the actual ideas that people were excited about. I'm just noticing this, it says a common thread, that the artists really wanted to emphasize that enough to actually put it in writing. I'm noticing a couple of things here too that I think we were concerned about. I mentioned before the B-52 bombers. This way that this is shading a shadow on the land here, it just, that might be a reference to what we were going through and how there is a common thread, because this could be our land or it could be Latin America. And what is this little something? Smokestacks. So I think it kind of symbolizes factories. And so factory farm, maybe, like no factory farming. Because this would have been the late 80s, so the 90s is when it really did start to go to factory dairy farming, which is, you know, unfortunate. A lot of the local dairy farms that used to be family farms are now big conglomerates, you know. It's not the way it used to be. Cows aren't treated the same and the people aren't treated the same. I'm wondering too about these. This definitely seems to be like the mother of the disappeared type of reference. The other thing that really strikes me about it is the presence of the women as the people who seem to be holding everything together. The creators, in a sense, you know, she's pulling together this whole blanket and holding the sort of the world is on her lap in a way, in a similar way here, and it almost seems their look is almost like dreamy. And she seems to be like just growing out of the mountains in a way, like just a part of the earth. I think here, if you look closely again, you might see one of the North Country struggles of the time as well. Back in that time period, they were trying to put these big electrical transformers, and that would mean cutting down trees that were very important to people that they had been living with for a long time, and the importance of trees. And a really important part of what we love about living here, you know, is the natural environment. I'm very excited that people are looking at this, because I think it is a time that we live in right now where this idea of art as a way to express deeply held feelings and ideas of the common people is really important right now. For me, what the takeaway is really the process is what's exciting, to protect that process where you're not creating something that is strictly an individual's or a small group's ideas, but that is something that can be created by the community and owned by the community, that then, also kind of amplifies to the rest of the community. That was the biggest thing for me, and I've always kept that since, valuing the process itself, that is the most key thing. I was just thrilled to be a part of this whole project. And, it was a really important project for my own development of a sense of people's voice and being empowered through art. And especially, one of the things I remembered learning from one of the artists that really stuck with me was the difference between art that is a one-time piece of art that may be highly valuable but have a very exclusive and restricted availability, or people's access to it publicly would be really restricted and controlled, whereas something in print, for example, would be something widely available and more democratic in a sense, and more accessible to people. And so in that way, even though it seems cheap, it's actually something that can be more valuable in terms of spreading social change and ideas and helping people who feel isolated to feel like they're not alone. And so the mural project, in a sense, was also, came across as an art of the people. So that was an important thing that I took to heart. And afterward, actually I was so inspired by it that I went to, after the artists had left, I had an idea of something I wanted to do, and went and got a grant from St. Lawrence. I can't remember what budget they took it out of, but I applied for a grant to buy the materials to build the frames, stretch the canvas. There were some visiting artists that showed me how to do it, and I said, okay, I have an idea, let's do it, and so I did the same thing and, got some people involved, and we painted this big mural that, it wasn't quite as big as these, but I would say it was probably 6 by 8 or something like that, and it hung here for years, 10 years or however many years, and they finally, wanted to change the building around and stuff, but it was something that I felt like an impulse or a calling that this needs to be said. There are a lot of people that are not happy about what's happening, and this was around the B-52 bombers, that Fort Drum was flying right over our region, and the impact that was having on people here and on animals, on the wildlife and the cows that were hearing this just extremely high level of noise, and how shocking it was, and how it was affecting agriculture and just people's sense of well-being to have these, people who have PTSD, veterans and things, so many different impacts. So this was, this mural painting project in this Diamond Arts Festival, I really took it to heart and started to put this into action, in that mural project as well as others.